And I'm going to commence the meeting, and then I'm going to introduce my colleague, Hongi, who's going to give a few opening remarks. But first, I'll just go over a couple of things. I'll turn on my camera as well, so you can see who I am. And then I'll turn it off after I finish my portion to save on the bandwidth, which I know is precious. So colleagues, welcome. Thank you very much for being here today. This is a one-on-one dialogue between Malawi, the KIX team in Malawi, and relevant stakeholders who have been invited, and the KIX Africa 19 Hub. We are a project of GPE, Global Partnership for Education, and the International Development and Research Center in Canada, the IDRC. We are happy to have with us today Joy Nafungo from IDRC. She's been our support, our guidance, our lighthouse in this project. We're also happy to have Victoria here from ICBA and Hongi, both in senior leadership and program positions at UNESCO ICBA. I think we can do a quick round of, let's do a quick round of introductions, and then I'll turn it over to Hongi to give a little overview as to what KIX is. I have a couple of slides for that as well, and to welcome everyone here. So if we can each take a minute to introduce ourselves, and I think I'll go first, and then I will turn it over to the next person in the room. I will. My name is Marianne Drea Sheka, and I am the Knowledge Management Consultant here at the KIX Africa Hub. And I am with UNESCO ICBA. ICBA stands for the International Institute for Capacity Building in Africa. And we are one of the 3 international partners that are managing the KIX Africa 19 Hub. The others are UNICEF and the African Union. So we work very closely with them. And I will turn it over to, I want to call on someone who's here from the Malawi team. Shinshin, would you like to go next? Introduce yourself and where you're from and what brings you here today.
Okay, yeah, sure. Hi, colleagues. I'm just turning my camera so I can say hi. So my name's Xinxin, and I work for UNICEF Malawi Country Office as an education specialist focusing on monitoring, evaluation, and also supporting the government on strengthening the education management information system, supporting the evidence generation, etc. Yeah, very excited to meet you all and excited to contribute in any way I can. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I am Lindy Wechide from the Ministry of Education, Department of Quality Assurance. Thank you.
Hi. Hello. Please proceed. Hi, I'm Naomi Muntali. I'm from UNESCO, Malawi. I've just joined the Malawi team. I've come in from the regional office. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Abraham Senator from Malawi. I'm working as an education division manager in the Southwest Division of Malawi. I'm managing education, particularly secondary education. Thank you.
Yvonne, would you like to go next?
Oh, hi, everyone. I'm Yvonne Boyer, working with UNESCO ICBA as the male consultant for KIX project. Thank you.
Victoria, I'm not sure if you're able to hear us or tune in right now, but if you are, would you like to introduce yourself? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Molly Bwanji, the Queen Malawi. And my name is Victoria Chisache Kanove. I work for UNESCO ICBA as the Senior Program Coordinator for Capacity Development for Education, but also a focal point for the KIX Africa 19 Hub. Happy to be on this call. Over to Hungi.
Good afternoon, colleagues and friends. My name is Njora Hungi. I work with UNESCO ICBA. And Victoria or Marianne, I would request that you present the overview on my behalf. Thank you.
Noted, Hungi, thank you. Joy, would you like to introduce yourself? I briefly introduced you before, but I think it'd be much better if we all heard from you, if that's all right with you.
Yes, sure. Thanks, Marianne. Good afternoon, colleagues. Let me see if I can turn on my video for a moment. It's a pleasure to be with you all. My name is Joy Nafungo, and I work with the International Development Research Center, IDRC, tuning in here from Nairobi. I'm based at the East and Southern Africa Regional Office. Pleasure to virtually meet you all.
Thank you so much, Joy. Bezawit?
Hi, colleagues. My name is Bezawit, Data Management Assistant from UNESCO ICBA. Thank you, Maria.
Enoch?
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Henok. I'm here for technical support, just in case, and I'm the IT specialist at UNESCO ICBA. Thank you.
Thank you, Hungi. I noticed that we do have a few members of the team from the KIX Malawi team with us today. We have very few of them. I think most of our members are other stakeholders, if I'm not mistaken. But I think then we have, I think Abraham, you're a member of the team. And I see Steve has joined. Steve, would you like to introduce yourself? You're a member of the KIX Malawi team. Over to you. Actually, he might have problems joining. I'm seeing that he's cutting in and out a bit.
I think he said his audio had some problem, but it seems like he's connecting to the audio. So maybe he will be able to speak in a bit.
Okay, maybe we can give him a few seconds to connect then. Okay, maybe we should proceed, and then when Steve is able to join, then I will call on him to introduce himself. So I think we should begin. Since Hungi has requested us to do the overview, I'll go over with that right now. And then at any point in time, Victoria or Hungi, if you'd like to contribute, please feel free to jump right in. I can't always see if you have your hand raised because I'm in presentation mode, so feel free to just unmute and let me know if you'd like to add to something I'm saying. Yes, Steve, are you able to hear us? Hello, Steve. Welcome. Can you hear us? Okay, so Steve, I'm not sure if you can hear us or not, but if you are able to hear us, could you introduce yourself or else even type in the chat box?
I can hear, but
yes, would you like to introduce yourself, Steve? Or would you like me to introduce you? Which I also can do so, but it would be nice to hear from you.
I think he's logged out again.
Okay.
Sorry, the internet seems to be quite poor on his side, but he joined again. Yeah.
It's very tricky sometimes. Steve is a member of the KIX Malawi team. And I think it's great that he's here. So hopefully he can join. Steve, if you're there, are you able to hear us? Okay. Also, I have a question for Henok from my team. Henok, will you record the meeting or should I record it?
Marianne, I have already started the recording.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Steve, if you're able to hear us, perhaps you can introduce yourself on the chat box by typing your introduction. We'd like to hear from you. So I'm going to begin with an overview. First of all, this is the meeting agenda for today. I know that we're a little behind schedule, but it doesn't really affect us too much because I think we're a small group today, so we'll have enough time to have an intimate talk. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes giving an overview of the KIX Africa 19 Hub and our overall country engagement strategy. Then I'm going to take a look at what Malawi has identified as their priorities through previous conversations we've had with them. So and see if those are still valid. So validate those priorities with you all. I know the representation from the team is a little bit patchy today, but I think it should still serve as a window into some of the areas that are of interest for Malawi's capacity building. So it should still be very reflective, I hope. And then we'll have a listening session where we'll turn it over to you, and we'd like to hear from you about your current projects, your priorities, your plans, and any needs, any capacity building needs that you have identified. They could be recent needs, they could be outstanding needs from the beginning of the project or even before the project that may not have already been addressed either through our activities or in the previous presenting of your priorities in the third part here, where we show you what your priorities were reported as. So if there's anything new, this is the best time to hear it right now, since we're opening up a channel of dialogue directly with you. And then at the end, we'll talk about a few takeaways and then next steps. All right. Oh, and by the way, if you'd like to say anything during the meeting, I think it's all right if you unmute yourself and if you just, you can contribute that way. I don't think it's going to be a very strict agenda today. I think it's more about hearing from you. So if you'd like to say something, feel free to unmute and just contribute right away without having to raise your hand or type in the chat box. So this is an overview of the KIX Africa 19 Hub with the big question of what can we achieve by learning together? These are some recent snapshots of capacity building sessions that we've had recently. So this idea of learning together is central to the hub. And who is in the hub? There are 18 countries in the hub. As you can see, they're mostly spread out in Eastern, Southern, as well as Western Africa. And you probably already know this, but we are English speaking in the hub. There's another hub that is for French speaking countries. And we occasionally work with them, but primarily we are working closely with the English speaking countries. Our mission and our vision is to become a one-stop regional resource forum for African educational stakeholders in locating, harnessing, and implementing robust and emerging evidence on the 6 thematic areas for the realization of Sustainable Development Goal 4 and the Continental Education Strategy for Africa goals. As you know, that's the African Union's agenda, and SDGs are the United Nations agenda. So to summarize this, we're trying to become a one-stop resource for locating, harnessing, and implementing, generating, and sharing data that is from the region and for the region. And there are a couple of core principles at the center of the hub. And these core principles are this belief that we have, and that's shared really amongst all the other three KIX hubs, all four of us, is that dialogue and ideation and innovation need to be country-led and country-centered. So those are two different things, country-led and country-centered. Country-led is really the goal, and country-centered is the standard and the expectation for everything. Trusting relationships and partnerships that transcend national borders, but that still derive the specificity and the uniqueness of the context within those borders is also very important to the hub. So those trusting relationships, partnerships, and networks where we can learn together and grow together and share are really important. And also the essential role of evidence and decision-making. In decision-making and design. So the essential role of evidence in policy formation, in reform, and in decision-making. The objectives of the engagement strategy are really three. So the engagement strategy is a way for the countries, those 18 countries, the member teams. So the teams of 5 to 6 stakeholders who are part of each of those 18 countries, this is a way to engage with them for institutional capacity building and learning and sharing across national borders. So this is really composed of 3 parts. The first objective of what we try to do here at KIX is to generate and mobilize knowledge, data, and innovation for learning within these communities or networks of practice, research, and learning in the priority areas. And what are the priority areas? Teaching, learning, assessment, gender, inclusion, and equity, assessment systems, data management, ECCE, early childhood care and education. So these areas that are so important and that really make up the tapestry of education, we are seeking to generate and to mobilize knowledge and innovation in these areas and to share them across countries' borders. Another objective is to facilitate the enhancement of these 18 countries' technical knowledge, technical capacity to implement the learning that they are doing in these thematic priorities. So the learning that's taking place around, say, gender transformative approaches, the learning that they're doing together in the hub. Objective 2 is about how to implement that, how to make that happen, how to make that come alive through education sector plans, through policy, through the ways in which we can see it taking shape. And objective 3 is really what we're working on today. It's to refine the way that we engage with you in order to reach the most relevant and the most resourced actors, those that are able to make a change, those that are committed, those that are interested, those that are eager to make a change in their contexts. We're trying to reach those people. They are at different stages, different places as well. They're not always at the ministry. As you can see, they may be at UNICEF, they may be at local education groups. The idea is that we need to include many people and the right people in our engagement strategy. So that's the overview of what the KIX Africa 19 Hub really is and what it's all about. So let's take a look at some of those priorities. I briefly mentioned a few priorities before, but what do we mean by those? And there are so many of them. So are there some that are more important than others and more immediate than others? How do we begin to take a look at them individually and also connect them? So you are probably already quite aware of this, but last year, the first year of the KIX project, we did a series of assessments with you and with the other countries. And we asked, what is most important? What is most immediate? What is most crucial to you? And interestingly, this was taken at the time of COVID, when countries were generating complex plans to deal with the crisis that it posed. So that also came up as one of the priorities is emergency preparedness and response. But as you can see, this is according to the ministry officials. As you can see, teaching and learning emerges as the most top priority, followed closely by learning assessment, inclusivity, and the data challenge, as well as early childhood education. So these are not taking second place, in fact, because teaching and learning is actually embedded within all of them. There's no KIX Africa 19 Hub, there's no ministries of education, there's no project without teaching and learning at the center of everything that happens. So that realization was here, as well as the other areas that are almost all of equal priority. So as you can see, the 6 areas are all quite important and quite interlinked and relevant. We also saw something similar when we asked the local education groups, what are your priorities? And we also found that teaching and learning still emerges as the top priority, just like it did in the ministry. It also emerged as the top priority in local education groups. And again, followed closely by not the separate, but the interlinked areas like assessment, ECCE, equity and inclusivity, and data management. And these are all part of teaching and learning. They're not separate from that. They're all part of that, which tells us that everything should link back to what happens in the classroom between a teacher and his or her students, and what is going on at the school level. What's happening with teaching and learning at every step of the way. None of these are divorced from each other. Now, let's drill down into this team who's represented here today. In October of last year, we asked in a rapid needs assessment, what are your interests in capacity strengthening? And we got a lot of responses from the Malawi team, and I'm presenting them here. There were 3 members from Malawi who responded to the survey. So this is reflective of the 3 members' collective responses. So they're up here on the screen, but I will read through them. So the needs that were expressed were policy design and analysis, educational planning and projection techniques, project cycle management, including software applications and project management, results-based management, monitoring, evaluation and learning, MEL, transformative and instructional leadership, advanced qualitative and quantitative research methodology, knowledge management, collaborative learning and adapting, gender mainstreaming and auditing, application of applied of action research, application of ICT, formative and summative evaluation of learning, special needs education pedagogy and its application in the classroom, and effective teaching methods for early childhood care and education, student learning during COVID-19, and there were 2 write-in responses where it was written in economics of education and impact assessment and evaluation. So I'm putting these up here so we can review them together and see if these still hold true. It has been several months now. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you from these, if there's anything that you'd like to prioritize from this list and start with, maybe a couple of them, 3 or 5 of them that maybe stand out to you as perhaps the most important that you'd like to start working on first, or that you already are working on and you'd like to have some input in. So I'll go back to this slide. I also want to show you what you told us in terms of your research needs. So areas that you want to learn more about or that you want more information about. So again, it's an extensive list. I'll only mention the bold points because otherwise, as you can see, you can read it yourself. there's a lot of verbs analyzing and studying. So you requested research about ending school-related gender-based violence, teacher absenteeism, children with special educational needs, the causes of dropout for special needs education children, national learning assessment systems, formative assessment techniques and teachers' capacity to conduct formative assessment, technology and teaching and learning, student-centered learning and student motivation, learning assessment data in school reforms, so using data to inform school reforms, feedback mechanisms for schools, developing qualifications for early childhood care and education staff members, action research in schools, and the challenges to education reform. So what makes it less effective and what can make reform more effective? So again, these are the research areas that you expressed interest in accessing and learning more about. And these are the capacity areas, so the capacity strengthening, or you could say skill areas that you express interest in. So we have skills here, and we have content here. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you if these two are relevant and is still relevant and valid, and whether you can pick a few from these that you'd like to focus on first, or if there's anything new that has come up since then. So I'd now like to open it up. We have about 45 minutes left for this meeting, and I think there's enough time for everyone to have their say and to have then a cross dialogue where we can talk about Malawi's experiences and expectations of the hub, any changes that you have experienced because of the hub. So if you've attended events, or if you've accessed for example, the digital repository for information, have there been any changes in the ways in which Malawi stakeholders think or act or practice because of the hub? And how can we continue to align the hub with your priorities and your projects and your plans? So this lower light green part is really going back to these slides here, is that which of these areas do you really want to focus on and spend more time in maybe first? We know that there's some that will be there in everything, like policy design and analysis, and gender mainstreaming and auditing. Like these are going to be here with everything. But then a few areas we'd like to hear from you, which of these are most relevant. So I'm going to turn it over now to the Malawi team. These are really the three driving areas of the listening session that we're interested in. So again, your experiences and expectations of us, any changes that you've had or experienced because of the project. So we want to know about the impact that it's had on you, if any. And we'd like to hear about how we can meet some of those priorities that you identified in the previous last couple of slides. So with that, I'm going to mute myself and ask if the Malawi team would like to start contributing. Just unmute yourselves, please. And this is a very intimate conversation. Feel free to just jump right in and start sharing any impressions that you have. If you'd like me to go back and forth to a different slide, just let me know. So over to you, colleagues from Malawi.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
I'm not sure who's speaking, but I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you, Joy. Go ahead.
All right, thanks. Thanks very much for the presentation. If you can go back to the priorities. Yes, continue, just go back. It's not moving. All right, but my key interest. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I wanted. Oh no, you have gone beyond. Just go back a bit.
Is this all right? I'm on the slide that says Malawi's interest in capacity strengthening. Is this okay?
No, yeah, the. Oh, let me cross check. Yeah, the next one, the next slide. If you can go to the next slide. The next one.
Yes, my screen now shows the interests in research.
Yes, the next after this one.
There's nothing after this one. This is we have 2 slides about Malawi's priorities and then 2 slides about the overall KIX Africa priorities.
Okay, fine. I think there was an issue about the I think it's about feedback from feedback to schools. I think maybe from monitoring or from research improvements in that area. I saw it somewhere.
Yeah, it's right here. Okay, right side.
I've seen it. Yes, analysis of good practice in developing and implementing appropriate feedback mechanisms for schools following data analysis and reporting requirements. My experience, maybe something which I can point at after interacting with KIX was the issue of information exchange. I think in the ministry, we had a challenge in terms of information exchange, in terms of the data from monitoring, so that maybe it can be properly shared. The gap which we had was that we had data silos. So reports, information, data from different parts of the ministry, we could not aggregate them. It was a bit difficult and we would not share them. But I think through the lessons which we're getting from KIS, now we're thinking about maybe replicating something like an M&E reporting repository or a portal where we can put all those data so that it can be accessible by management in their own decision making. So I think that would be a plus for me. I think if we can learn how we can strengthen that information exchange and also various reports from different parts of the ministry, I think that would really improve the way we work at the ministry. Thank you.
That's really great to hear. Can I ask you just one follow-up question about that? So you raised a really important point and you were very clear in linking that to what you saw from KIX and then what you're now doing. Why do you think that is important for the ministry? Can you try to explain how that would help? You said that it would be helpful, but why do you think it might be helpful?
Yeah, it's important just because every time maybe the directors or people, the senior officers go to attend meetings, they want to have maybe data on particular indicators at hand. And maybe they want to refer to particular evidence that's to back up whatever they are presenting maybe to the public. But if that information is not readily accessible, sometimes it becomes a problem. And sometimes it takes a lot of time just to compile certain reports, just because information is a bit scant and is fragmented. But through a repository kind or a portal kind of a mechanism, I think we would find all of the things on the same in the same kind of maybe Like if we're talking about a portal, we just find all those information right away there for particular indicators which are key to the ministry. And that would help to strengthen evidence-based, maybe policy decisions by management. It can also help us as staff to properly interact and learn from each other, the best practices, where we fail, the challenges which we're encountering, etc. So that's why it's very important rather than the current situation now.
That's very clear to me now. And Joy, how far away do you think you are from developing such a tool or a strategy in order to do that?
We have started writing a concept paper just to indicate what we want. And we're trying to collaborate with the ICT section in the ministry to see how that can be put in maybe on a web page for the ministry. And then maybe learn from KIX in terms of how best we can be able to go around those kind of challenges which we are facing at the moment. So we think it would be very important if we develop something like a portal or a repository of some sort, which we can use for information exchange, for storing maybe different reports, best practices, lessons, and even data on particular indicators, key indicators in the ministry. So that's where we are as of now. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. I have more questions about that actually. just because it's interesting to hear what you're saying, and I'm wondering, have you seen the digital portal that KIX has? We have last year, I think in November, we launched a portal. A repository where we have, it's like a library of information and policy information and teaching information. It's like a library online of many different documents that are from different countries and different ministries. And it's on our website. It's called our digital repository. And have you been able to see that yet? Is that something that you have seen or accessed or heard about?
Yes, I've seen it, and we're trying to learn how it works. The challenges that is related to ICT skills. So I'm not good at ICT. So that's why we are collaborating with ICT to make sure that maybe we can learn from how that works, that library, how it works, how it facilitates information exchange, and how we can be able to access maybe data on key indicators and the like, and maybe be able to improve in terms of knowledge sharing. So we want to replicate something of that sort, but at a ministry level. So it's a process because we have to do it ourselves. That's from M&E plus EMIS. Then we also have to engage the ICT so that we can come to something which looks like almost like the way that repository is working.
Okay, this is really interesting, and it's also a very practical area that you've defined so well. So I think there's a great scope there for follow-up, for ways in which we can work with you on that. But I think I'll turn it over to other colleagues as well. If you'd like to bring up another area, Joy, or else maybe someone else would like to bring up an area, feel free.
At this point, I think that's okay. I think about the other areas later.
Okay. Other colleagues from Malawi, I see Steve is with us. Steve, we haven't heard from you yet. Would you like to introduce yourself and let us know whether you or not you were able to hear the presentation, and if there's anything that comes to your mind from what you've heard?
Hello, thank you. Yeah, I've been having difficulty with my internet. I hope I can be heard now. It seems to be working. So I joined really late. I think I found you talking about the Malawi contribution. So I didn't hear anything that came before that. But maybe just to add, I think, to what Joy was saying, in addition to think capacity issues in ICT and data, I think another aspect is also probably maybe policy uptake. Policy uptake in the sense that you can have the data and have the good practices, the knowledge out there, but now to make, let's say, maybe the ministry or the government use that data and implement policy changes. I think that can also be another challenge. So that could be maybe an area, because I saw that the first item was a policy design and analysis. So I think maybe if we could look at that and maybe add that policy uptake aspect to say, how do you make governments use the evidence and make policy changes and also implement those changes. Thank you.
Steve, thank you so much for that. That rings very true. I think maybe I'd like to ask other colleagues if they'd like to respond to that about Steve's point about policy uptake needing to be mentioned here next to policy design and analysis.
Oh.
Would anyone like to join the conversation? Naomi or Shinshin first, and if nobody else, then from our side.
Yeah, hi. Marianne, could you repeat the question again? The policy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So Steve pointed out that it's all fine to have policy design and analysis and knowledge sharing, but what about policy uptake? So the adaptation of policy by governments, that's an entirely different challenge. And he pointed out aptly that it's not included here on the slide, is that there's nothing here about policy uptake. It's just policy design and analysis, but the challenge of policy uptake is not here. So we're thinking about that together.
Okay. Yeah. So from my I fully agree with the actually like what Steve brought up earlier on in terms of evidence-based decision making. I think like strengthening our evidence and having the basically knowledge sharing platform within the country to be able to share and have it ready for the management to be able to use policy, the evidence for policy dialogues and policy decisions. And I think in terms of policy uptake, I think the for me, like I think that's a great point, but I'm not sure like policy uptake of it's like a specific policy of after we designed through the analysis basically. So I think if that is basically looking at the evidence-based policy making and then see whether that policy is enforced, then I will be fully agree. So I think maybe like the clarity of policy uptake, or is it meaning like the evidence-based policy making and then the adoption of the policy? So if that's the case, then I think that's a very valid point. Yeah. And then maybe if it's okay, I can add some reflection from my end before, or do you wanted to finish this discussion, then we move on other inputs?
I think Shinshin, go right ahead, and we can always come back to the policy point. I think that it's
Okay.
not going anywhere, so we'll come back to that in a moment. Please feel free to share.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, I think all the inputs like colleagues gave in the 2 slides are very very comprehensive, and I think very on the point. And from my side, I think I wanted to emphasize the 2 area. One is on the I think it's here, like on the basically strengthening the technology and distance learning, basically, because I think Malawi has a lot of challenges during the COVID with the school closure, that with the limited distance learning opportunities, we are the opportunities are there, but in terms of the infrastructure and then the access of children actually accessing these distance learning programs are very limited. So I think to learn about other countries' examples with similar contexts as Malawi from the region, especially those kind of case studies that are actually effective, I think that's what we really needed here, because I think we are talking about reimagining education through technology, and then especially to like support the country with low connectivity, low infrastructure. But I think that's a common challenge across the region. I think if KIX can be like the knowledge sharing platform that provide guidance and case sharing from other countries, lessons learned, I think that would be hugely valued and useful for Malawi. And then, yeah, the other because I work in the M&E and support the government with the information management system. So I think because my passion also, I think it's also aligned with the government's new reform, which puts evidence-based policy making, planning, programming at the heart of the reform. So I think in terms of improving the management system, and maybe, for example, we are now doing web-based EMIS system. And I think in terms of how we best digitized the data management system, and then be able to better utilize the information, and as well as strengthening the quality through like a more effective system, I think that is very needed here as well, which connecting to other areas in terms of we can also have the assessment data more digitized and then effective, and then promoting the use of it. So I guess that's kind of like connecting different dots together through the strengthening of the data management system. I think these are like 2 area that I think are very important from other really important area that you already highlighted. Yeah. So I will give back to you, Mariam.
Thank you so much, Shinshin, and that was very spot on and clear. I see that we have Dr. Zampita with us. He's just joined. Are you able to hear us?
Yeah, thank you very much. My apologies for joining late. I was tied up in another engagement.
That's no problem. We completely understand. Perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself to the group. We know that you're the focal point from the ministry for Malawi, and we're very grateful that you helped to organize this meeting today. But we'd like to hear from you. Perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself to all of us.
Thank you very much. As you already mentioned, I'm Valentino Zimpita, and I'm Deputy Director in the Ministry of Education, responsible for higher education. And I happen to be the focal person for the KIX Hub activities. Once again, apologies for joining late.
No problem at all. We completely understand, and it's been kind of a hectic day online for many of us. I just want to very, very quickly brief you what you're looking at right now. This is the list of the priorities that were expressed by team members from Malawi who took the rapid needs assessment last fall. in October. And these are the areas that were specified as areas that the Malawi members would like to improve their capacity in. So this is what you're seeing right now. And I won't go through reading them out loud, just to display them. So that, and I'll leave them up here so you can see them. And also the next slide is Malawi's needs for research and for information. So I'm leaving these up here to check if these are still valid and if there's anything new that has come up, and which of these areas would you like to address or give feedback on, an area that maybe has improved since we last spoke to you. For example, we've heard a bit from the members in this call about this point over here on the right, feedback mechanisms for schools. And we've been speaking about the importance of policy uptake and on data management systems. Many things have been coming up so far. So if you'd like to take a minute to read these, I'll leave them up here for a moment and give you a moment to see them. I just wanted to go back for a moment while you take a moment to read this, Mr. Zimpita. I want to ask Steve to maybe elaborate a little bit on a point that was raised before. You mentioned that policy uptake is a real challenge. Could you elaborate a little bit on that, why you think that might be so? If you have any examples of policy uptake that a policy that has not been adapted that could have been adapted, and what are your thoughts on that? What are your opinions? What seems to be the challenge? Why is it happening? So Steve, if you can hear me, I'd like to hear a bit more about your previous point.
Thank you very much, Marianne. I need to do a little bit of thinking to come up with some examples. But in general terms, I think some of the bottlenecks to policy uptake tend to be financial. So government might be aware of certain things that need to happen, but it's always a huge task to mobilize the resources for that. So, but at least maybe if there is some willingness, you get a clear message that the government is aware and likely to think about it. But at times when you don't even get that sense, that an acknowledgement that that's a problem, maybe something will happen. Maybe to use an example that came out of what Shinshin was explaining earlier, like the need for continuity, the need to use images and remote learning mechanisms in terms of crisis. For example, when schools were closed for 6 months, and I think they've been closed again this year. A 5-week closure due to the re-emergence of the second wave of COVID. And then as soon as that closure ended, teachers went to strike. And that strike just ended yesterday. But during those closures, there's no learning going on amongst the especially public schools, and the big reason is the capacity issue. So capacity amongst schools to, for example, train their teachers so they can engage learners during school closures. With the pandemic, it has to be very carefully thought plan, because there is need for protective equipment, so people are keeping safe. But so just the training aspect is on one side, but on the other side are the resources themselves, because it will mean maybe making use of technology. Technology possession statistics in Malawi are quite low. I think only 16% of the households in the country have access to a gadget that can go on the internet, like a mobile phone or a laptop. Radio is a bit better. So the government was able to put in place radio programs. And they were broadcast quite frequently, every single day. But I think people were giving their feedback, but it wasn't clear that that feedback was made use of, because some of the challenges were that we don't have a radio station that covers the entire country. We do have a national broadcaster, but it doesn't go. I mean, it reaches maybe 80% of the country, but you've got a good 20% that's the nations, the people have the radios, and I think only 50% of the population actually have got radios. And then the batteries are plenty to supply. So learning lessons from that and maybe preparing for the next closure. That's maybe where you need some capacity at research uptake. You've got the research evidence, can the policy take care of that? And maybe next time there is a closure, can we use that knowledge and maybe make sure that although schools are closed, the kids are not going to school, but learning and teaching have not stopped.
Thank you for that, Steve. That was very comprehensive, and you gave an example, a very relevant example with COVID. And I'm wondering if anyone from Malawi would like to contribute to this discussion, or react to what was just said, or add to what you see here on the slide. And we have not heard yet from Naomi. Dr. Zimpita, if you'd like to also jump in at any point in time, feel free to. But we're really looking at these three questions: is what are Malawi's experiences with and expectations of us? Have there been any changes, any positive changes because of the hub in Malawi? Or are there any ways for Malawi to share new knowledge with other countries in the hub? If there's a new area that you've developed that you'd like to add to and contribute to the hub, and how can we align our work to your priorities? So these are the driving questions of this listening session. So if we haven't heard from you yet, we'd love to hear from you, Malawi team.
Hi, Marianne. I can't see my raise hand option, so I'll just speak. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So I've just come physically into the country. I've been supporting the office from outside, from Harare. And I think the issue of policy uptake is something that definitely needs to be looked at. I agree with what Dr. Shara was saying, and from what I've seen, it's, I think one of the hindrances is having policies talk to each other. So, for example, our work is we're working in life skills education, and that work cuts across different ministries, which have different policies for young people. So we are having to now work to see how they can be best streamlined so that they actually speak to each other, because we think that, you know, part of the limited uptake is about, you know, what the Ministry of Health says, what the Ministry of Gender says, and so on and so forth. So those are some of the things that we see. And I think my next comment is, it applies to maybe Africa as a whole, but I do think it's crucial that we look at ways in which we can make internet accessible. You know, we've just talked about, you know, Dr. Shah talked about gadgets, you know, being limited in the country, radios and so on. But and the main thing is that in the 21st century, we are going towards, you know, we are becoming more and more reliant on internet. And I know this is a cross-cutting area, a multi-sectoral approach that is needed, but it's something that we definitely need to look into. How can we make education accessible with low costs, and also still be within the 21st century. We want our kids to be able to move into the 21st century. I mean, our generation may be left behind, but our kids must move into the 21st century. So that, to me, is something that is really, really crucial. How do we make sure that our learners can access knowledge? Because once that is in place, then it doesn't matter what, the interventions that we put in place, whether we are making audios available and so on, they will be able to access anything and be able to move forward. So yeah, that's my take. And also the area of assessment, I think, is also a crucial area, and probably not just for Malawi, but it's definitely an area that needs to be looked into, because we are also moving into more formative assessment rather than summative assessment. But because formative assessment is a new area, teachers need to be trained, and we need to actually, be fully conversant with what formative assessment is. At the moment, we confuse formative assessment with short-term summative assessment, that which is a different thing. So those are things that definitely need to be looked into. And yeah, that's my contribution for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Naima. Those are really rich points. Thank you. I'm wondering if anybody from Malawi has a reaction or a contribution. Please go ahead. Yes, Dr. Zimpita, I see your hand up.
Thanks very much. First, maybe I should concur with my colleagues. The issues that they have raised are very important. Actually, the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us a lot and has made us realize the challenges that are there, because the most viable avenue for continued learning should have been online and distance learning. Unfortunately, the pandemic has shown us that there is quite a lot that we are supposed to do. Actually, at central level in Malawi, possibly there might have been some efforts that were taken to facilitate online learning. Unfortunately, at individual level, students have got a lot of challenges. First, not many have got the gadgets. In addition, data is quite expensive. So there are all those things possibly that need to be looked into if we are to utilize the on-learning avenue, which is very, very important when we are in situations as has been the case as of now. So I just wanted to agree with my colleagues that this is indeed a very important point to be taken into, to bear in mind. There is also a mention of moving from summative to formative evaluation. Actually, this is what is being talked quite a lot. This time is the direction that we would want to take. Unfortunately, as it has been said, possibly there might be need for quite a lot of groundwork to be done so that teachers know what is it that is expected of them, and they should be able to do it to the best of their abilities. So I think that one is equally very important. I think on the issues that people raised in the data collection that was done in October, I think there is knowledge management. I would think we need to capacitate people on how to manage knowledge, because it appears there is quite a lot of research that takes place, but utilization of that is usually a problem. I don't know if it's the case in other countries, but in Malawi, possibly a lot of research is just kept without proper implementation. So I would think we may need indeed to find a way of capacitating the leaders so that they are aware of how best to manage and utilize knowledge that is accessed. But over and above this, I think on this diagram here, there is Malawi's experience with and expectations of the hub, and changes in Malawi since project launch, and chances for Malawi to share knowledge. I thought on this one I should make a comment that while the hub has got very brilliant ideas, I think in the very beginning of this project, people, the focal persons, I think we had a meeting one day, people indicated that there might be need for a constituency building sort of, where we would take the hub to the people. Unfortunately, because that time we were suggesting that could we not arrange that we have country meetings where different stakeholders would be brought together. For example, this time around, we requested maybe to bring in UNICEF, to bring in UNESCO, to bring in other people. But possibly we haven't had a forum where to take the project to them. So I don't know how best we can move, because it's like we haven't yet reached to people. Of course, there are some people, as a focal point person, I might have interacted with them, shared with them some information, but possibly we would need a better forum where a lot of people could be made to understand what is it that the hub is doing, how best as institutions they can benefit from it, how best as institutions they can contribute to its operations. So possibly moving forward, this is something that we can always think about. Otherwise, in Malawi, there are a lot of stakeholders in education, but maybe very few are aware of the project, because we haven't created a forum for taking the same to them. As of now, maybe I should stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. That's quite rich. That's a lot of really interesting feedback. And I really think it's interesting how you said that we need to take the hub to the people. It hasn't gone there yet. I think it's interesting that there's an opportunity at some of our knowledge sharing events to have diverse stakeholders present. At a recent webinar, we invited teacher colleges, student teachers, teacher trainers, as well as the actual member teams, your teams. And in fact, some of the best comments and the best feedback that we got, the most articulate feedback, were from those members, the members of not the KIX teams, but the general public or the people who had come, the more direct stakeholders, the ones who are maybe on more of the receiving end. I don't like to use the word receiving, but more on the less on the policy design side and more on the side where the policies are implemented, like teacher trainers and teacher institutions, as well as teachers as well. So that was very interesting how you mentioned that. And I think that there's a way for many of the teams, the teams, the KIX teams, like your team, to perhaps take these ideas forward within the country. There's nothing actually stopping that from happening, is making these ideas, making some of the work useful to others within the country and sharing these ideas within the countries. So I think the KIX Hub represents a really great platform to share across countries, but within countries, that's something that the focal points and the team members can definitely do. And I'm hoping that there's lots of ways that are revealed for how to do that as we move forward this year together. Are there any other comments or points? We have about 3 more minutes left, and I'd love to hear if there's more members from Malawi who have any final thoughts, any reactions, any new ideas that have come your way before I begin to close the meeting.
Marianne, this is Victoria.
Yes.
I would like to thank so much the colleagues for their comments and inputs in terms of what should be focused on. I'm just wondering, in terms of prioritization, could the team probably guide us in a written format where exactly we would start from? Thank you. I can see you have probably moved into takeaways. Yes, because I think there seem to be quite a number of other things that are being fronted. But where exactly can we start from? And beyond just having a country meeting to popularize the hub, could it be probably tagged on a specific intervention, maybe like capacity development, or because even then you hit 2 birds with 1 stone. You're popularizing the hub, but also probably conducting training of some sort of, I think we need to think through it carefully, exactly what can add value at country level, as opposed to just simply to have a meeting, a dialogue meeting or something like that about the hub. So those are my thoughts, and I hand over back to you.
Thank you, Victoria. And I think there's a great chance there. Naomi mentioned that teachers really need capacity building and formative assessment. That seems to be an issue that I've also seen in the places that I've gone to, is that formative assessment is oftentimes takes a backseat to summative assessment, and there isn't enough formative assessment at all. So perhaps that could be the way that the hub becomes known to the people, as Dr. Zampita said, is to have maybe a session on capacity building in formative assessment for teachers, teacher trainers, like a training of trainers, cascading down to teachers, to student teachers. It could be something to explore. And it's almost like, I want to use the word maybe an easy win, because doing 2 things at once, and formative assessment is very satisfying and enriching, and it has very visible results when you do it. And it's something that's backed up by lots of research. So if that's something that you would like to explore, taking the direction of some resources for that, or talk through some ideas with you. Okay, I think then we should start wrapping it up because it is now 8:30. Victoria, would you like to say anything else, or Hungi, anything else? I'd also like to give Joy from IDRC a chance to give a final thought as well before we wrap up. So over to you, colleagues.
Maybe Hungi goes first, then I can probably say something.
Victoria, I have nothing to add. I've really enjoyed the discussion. This was very, very, very informative. And thank you so much, colleagues from Malawi. I see my old friends, Naomi there. I don't know where is David Morella. I thought he would be in the meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hungi. I really want to appreciate the colleagues in Malawi. I confirmed that it's great actually to get to hear from you, because we get to understand your needs more. And I want to thank so much the colleagues from UNICEF and UNESCO that have joined us. It's good that we are sort of like seeing where we are going in terms of articulating the needs for the Ministry of Education in Malawi. There's quite a lot that we need to do, but as I raised before, that the issue of prioritizing and rethinking through exactly what we need to do at country level, I think will help us to frame the best way possible to address these kind of needs that are being presented today. We had a meeting with the colleagues from the African Union and the UNICEF Region Office, and they're all willing to support us. I'm just hoping that we are going to put these requests on paper, but also we are going to have a very clear sort of like work plan or something like a strategy at country level that will help us sort of prioritize exactly what we should be doing. I agree that we need to make sure that everybody knows about the hub and they can be able to engage with the hub at country level. But I think we also need to think through it objectively and see where we can get maximum gains in terms of, yes, we hold a meeting, but it should be piggybacked onto something else that can be able to add value to both of us. So I'm so happy that we have had this dialogue, and let me just probably hand over to my colleague Joy to say her remarks. Thank you so much. I'm trying to get it in Malawian language. Thank you. Zikomo kwambiri.
Victoria, I think that Joy had to go for another meeting, so she's no longer here with us.
Okay, great. Over to you, Marianne.
Thank you, Victoria. I think unless there's anything more, I didn't ask my colleagues, Yvonne, if they have any thoughts. I'm so sorry. Do you have any closing thoughts, any closing remarks before we close the meeting?
No, Marianne, I think I'm okay for now.
Besowit?
No, Marianne.
Okay, so I think then we should close the meeting. Thank you so much to our colleagues who came from Malawi. This is just the beginning of this kind of communication. So I hope that you now feel free. If you ever would like to reach out to me or to any of us directly, feel free to do so. And I really do hope we can start to focus on some of those top priorities and focus in on a couple of that are most important to you. So perhaps we can take it forward in the next couple of weeks with that in mind. And I hope to also see you at the April 22nd meeting, in which we're going to announce some updates as well as some information about assessments. So thank you very much for coming. And I think that's all for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Marianne.
Thank you very much.
Marianne, thank you, Victoria.
Touch base soon.
Everyone.
Have a great day,
Thank you.
everyone.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care too.
Have a great
Bye.
day.